Hello, UK Crime Book Club. I am here with Harry Navinski. We've got so much to talk about. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and your books first, and then we will dive right in.
Okay, hi everyone. Don't know how many people there are out there on the metaverse, is it nowadays? I think it's what you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's great to be here and nice to be talking with Sam. Harry Navinski. I spent an awful long time in the Royal Air Force as an engineer, and after I left that, I spent another quite a long time, about 6 years, in West Bengal doing anti-human trafficking work. And you'll see that coming out in some of my books, like The Duty and The One to Follow, which is The Key. Also some anti-human trafficking stuff coming in there because I've experienced this firsthand, so that comes across. And one of the things you'll find in my books, my experiences in life are within the book, and that could be adventurous things, it could be sport, or just life in general, and of course, unfortunately, crime. So that's me. In terms of the books, my first book, which is The Glass, there's a couple of aspects to that. One is that DCI Susanna MacLeod inherits a magnifying glass from her great uncle, and he's a sort of a Sherlock Holmes type character from the Victorian era in London. He does, sort of modelled on him, I would say. And she inherits his magnifying glass and his estate by passing a test. So that's one aspect of the book that runs through it. The other side of it is an armed robbery, and the culprits in this you find out later on. Don't want to give you any spoilers
Don't
here.
Spoil
They've all got a background in common. Ex-military is as far as I want to go on that without saying too much about it. So there's the chase is on to track these guys down before they pull the next job. And of course, whenever times you have an armed robbery, there's always a risk somebody's going to get hurt or killed. So that's where the sort of excitement of the chase comes in. Following that, then, and in between, and going back to 1930-ish, is The Test, which is a historical novel, really, and it's a novella, and that is The Test. This is the story of the test that Susanna takes to gain the inheritance of the magnifying glass and the money, indeed, which helps her buy her first apartment in Edinburgh, which very, very nice. Of course, all this money being sat in the bank all this time. So that's a story in itself, and it's written like a bit of a Sherlock Holmesy type story. And that's good, and that sort of links them together. And then The Duty, which I know Sam is currently reading, is the more recently published one. And that picture on there, by the way, I took in West Bengal at a lake.
Wow.
Sunset on a lake, Chaltier, it's called Chaltier Bill. Bill is lake out there. And this is the one where there's a murder in Edinburgh, and Susanna and one of her colleagues travel out to Bangladesh and West Bengal to try and track down the woman who they know from DNA comes from that region of the world. And there's something else about her, which when you read the story, you'll find there's another reason why potentially she could become from there. And they travel out there and they come across lots of criminals and have a few battles on the way, physical battles and battles with officials in other countries that aren't always that easy. She identifies the victim and then returns to the UK to put it all together and arrest the people that then killed her, because they then obviously know who trafficked her into our country. So that's it. Again, don't want to go into too much detail, but that's the general plot. The one book I can't hold up here yet is The Key, or The Key to Murder, which is the sort of subtitle, I suppose, or the end of it. This is based again. These are all based in Edinburgh. The novella isn't. That's London. But DCI Susanna MacLeod leads the CID team in Edinburgh, and the key is to do with somebody who's found murdered, and when they look into the murder of this person who you would think, well, who would want to murder somebody like that? They find that the person has got a bit of a dark background. as in like abuse of power and abuse of other people in his power. But there's other aspects to it again, and this is where human trafficking sneaks in. And quite a bit of the book also is dealing with local human trafficking within Edinburgh, prostitution rackets and trafficking people in from Eastern Europe. But I don't want to tell you any more because that would spoil it. So I hope that's enough about the books to start with.
We've got some hellos already. So hello everyone who's already watching. So we've got Leslie and Laura, we've got Kaz, we've got TG, we've got Patsy. Somebody has just said the Key to Murder is a fabulous title. The book sounds fascinating. So that's Helen Blenkinsop. Hi Helen. So TG's saying she has no sound. So, Kaz, if you can message T and help us switch a sound on, please, I would be very grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting. The key to Murder title. I did just call it the key because it's the duty, the glass, the key.
So it's in.
I felt it was missing something, and I actually put it out on Facebook to some of the groups and said, I'm thinking of changing the title, having this extra bit on, and the voting came back in, and they agreed with my initial thoughts was it would be the key to murder, which of course it is. And the key is important in as much as without a key, the murder couldn't have taken place. And that's why it's so key to the story.
See what you did there. I like that. Laura's asked, why did you choose Edinburgh and Scotland as your setting?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It was sort of by accident because that first book came out of a creative writing course I went on, and the tutor had a little wooden trunk, and he opened it up, and inside was some objects inside cloth drawstring bags. He says, right, take an object out of the bag and then open the bag up and see what you've got. And here's a sheet of paper, fill this sheet of paper in. So we did that, and I'd got a magnifying glass. It looked like something Sherlock Holmes would have. So, okay. And I wrote down on this piece of paper all the questions that he'd set. And at the end of it, he says, right, write a quick start of a short story, half an hour, go. Half an hour later, I had the start of the glass. And what I basically said was it was Sherlock Holmes that had owned the glass, but now it was owned by his great niece, who lives in Edinburgh, who's called Susanna MacLeod, and that was it. The story came out of it. But it wasn't just because of an accident. I mean, I actually spent several years of my life living in Scotland, and Edinburgh is a lovely city. I was only there about 3 weeks ago, actually, again. And, it's just a really, really nice city. So it's great to set it in a place that's also iconic and well known throughout the world. So, but again, it wasn't by design, I would say. But I'm glad it is there because it's such a good city anyway, and I like writing about it.
Yeah. Somewhere that is on my list to visit.
Yes, it's a great place. Very nice. I'll be going back soon.
So let's talk about the duty. So memorable opening, very memorable. We have a lady washed up on a beach. I'm not giving anything away because this is the very beginning. So anyone who even opens the book is going to find out straight away.
Yeah.
And she's quite badly mutilated. Her face is unrecognisable, and obviously she's been in the water as well, which adds its own lovely dimension to it. So the first thing you're wondering, and obviously I'm not going to ask you to answer this, the first thing you're wondering, it brings up lots of questions. Why on earth don't they want this woman to be recognisable? Why are they trying to make it so difficult? So straight away, from the very opening, your mind's racing with loads of questions, wondering exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
So where did the idea for this, disfiguring a face come from?
I don't know, just out of my mind. It's just the imagination running wild as ever. I think the thing was they needed. Well, it occurred to me whilst writing it that if she wasn't disfigured, it might be easier certainly to track them down than if they disfigured the face. And that you'll become more obvious. You're getting through the story now, but as you get closer, you'll come to understand why that is. But it certainly meant that it was very difficult to find out who this woman was, because she was unrecognizable. You know, you couldn't just have a picture of her and compare it with other pictures and go, oh yeah, that's her, because she was such a mess. Yeah.
And it was interesting that you had two boys find her as well. It's often, and not a complaint, it's often dog walkers or somebody out for a run. You've got two boys bunking off school. Well, what a way to get caught wagging school.
Yeah.
Try talking your way out of that one.
Yeah, quite.
There's loads of different things that I wanted to ask you. So, start with trafficking tattoos. Again, I don't think I'm giving anything away with that. I didn't know that that was a thing. You know, the amount of crime and true crime that I've read and watched, and hadn't ever occurred to me that that was a thing.
It's a bit of a branding exercise. It's like, you know, we own you. This is our brand. Yeah, it's a brothel brand sort of thing. So yeah, it's quite common, particularly in South Asia. You know.
So let's talk about why human trafficking is a subject that's, can I say, close to your heart? Is that the right way of putting it?
Well, yeah, it is in a way. I mean, I'm still involved from the distance and supporting them and helping them. And my wife and I were both in West Bengal working for this organisation. And the organisation I was working for is that one. It's called Freeset. And so this is a Freeset T-shirt. They make T-shirts and bags and export them to most of the Western world. The reason it's so good, we went out there. I don't want to give you the long story too much. We went out on I'll just give you a brief one. We went out to Delhi and West Bengal with another charity to go and see the work that was done by them in country. And we went into the slums and the street children's schools and the orphanages and all this sort of thing, and which we'd never seen as a tourist. And got to see what it was like for the way these people live, the poorer people in India live. But whilst there, we then we felt driven to go back and be part of it, part of some sort of work for alleviating poverty or suffering in one way or another, but didn't know quite what we could do, because a lot of people that go on these sort of things, we call them mission if you want, could be doctors and nurses or water engineers, people with specific skills. And like, well, I was an aircraft engineer. What can I do for a charity in India? And certainly my wife, she's got an administration background, but we've both got management and administration skills, and you can read those across to anything. And all charities, of course, need administrators and managers, not just the specialists that deliver the specialist service. So we then became aware of Freeset and what they were doing, which was, it's a social enterprise, and it offers employment to women that have been trafficked into the sex trade. There's a little interesting backstory there. We'll take this only a minute. It was set up by a Baptist pastor and his wife from New Zealand, who went out to Calcutta, not knowing what they were going to do, but wanted to help alleviate suffering of poor people. And they moved into a flat, and that night they stood on their balcony and looked down, and there were women stood on the street outside their door waiting for customers. And they'd moved in to one of the biggest red light districts in the world. Sonagachi is where there's about 10,000 people involved in the sex trade in a square mile of Kolkata.
Wow.
And it was like, well, that's what we're here for then. So then what they did, they started up a business after, it took quite a while to get it going, making bags and then exporting them back to their home country to sell through contacts, mostly churches in New Zealand. And it grew and grew and grew and grew. So when I went, my wife and I went out, we've been going about 15 years, and they had grown to a medium-sized company, about 200 employees. When I left, there was about 250 employees, most of which were ex-sex workers, some of which, even better still, were like the daughters of sex workers who they rescued, got into employment and out of it before they got dragged into the trade. And some of the ways that they did that is like getting them places in boarding schools outside of the city to get educated, and then when they came back, they would straighten employment. There's so much more I can tell you about sex trafficking and the reasons behind it, and maybe later again I can go back into it if we have time. It's quite involved, and there's a lot of trickery involved. It's not just like abducting people off the street, which does happen, but there's lots of cheating people, tricking them into it, making them think they're going to something
going through the grooming process.
Yes, yeah, very much so. Yeah, and it's an awful trade, awful. Which, you know, what really annoys me is I see so many TV programs and films where you see prostitutes and they're shown as being women that have chosen to do it because it's easy money and they're slags. You know, that's the impression that they give. Yeah. You know, obviously I can't speak for everybody in America or the UK, but from my knowledge of that trade, and specifically from India, all those women, not one of them was a volunteer. You know, they're forced into it. You know, and it's terrible. Anyway, let's get back to the book, shall we?
You wanted to go into the background more.
Of which, sorry?
When I asked the question about the trafficking, you started to say something, then you said there was something about the background that you'd go back to. Has that slipped your mind? Or?
Okay, no. Well, I'll tell you. Well, let's slip into the background behind trafficking a bit more then. So when I arrived in Calcutta, it was to start off a program, and I was going there as a program manager because I'd got skills in that area. And we were going to, what had happened was one of the women who had originally been saved by Freeset, given employment and a way out of the sex trade, said, what you've done here is fabulous. It's wonderful. But what are you going to do to stop the girls being trafficked into this trade in the first place? So it was a challenge to him. He went, okay, I don't know. So they looked into it a bit more. They did a survey of hundreds of women in Sonagachi, this red light district, to find out where they came from and how they got there. And what they found was that approximately a third all came from one district of West Bengal. The other 2/3 came from lots of other districts in West Bengal, from other states in India, and from across the border in Bangladesh, and from Nepal. So the 60-odd% came from all these other places, but 30% came from one district. That's a bit like saying all the prostitutes in London, 30% of them come from Cambridgeshire. You know, from one county. Why is that? When they came up with this, it was like, whoa, right, we need to find out what's going on in this district, which is Murshidabad district. And it's about 120 miles, the capital is about 120 miles north of Kolkata. It's on the Bangladeshi border. And so you actually got some professional people to look into it.
Okay. So Harry's disappeared. Don't know if you can still hear me, Harry. Hopefully you can sign back in. Some of the characters in this book are fascinating. But Harry's back, so I will show you. Oh, I don't see it. There we go. Don't know why you disappeared.
I have no idea what happened there.
I was going to move on to characters, but I'll let you finish and then we'll go into characters.
Okay, that was very strange. Where was I? Yeah, Murshidabad district. So what they found out was that there's various ways that the women are trafficked. One of them is that a young man will propose a wedding. You know, he will ask for a hand in marriage sort of thing from a poor family, from a young pretty girl. He'll marry her in a local ceremony, not officially. He'll then take her off to Kolkata. He'll sell her to a brothel, and he'll go off to another village and find another wife, and do the same again, and keep doing it and keep doing it. Because these people are vulnerable. They're extremely poor. They're just about eking a living off the land, rice paddies and stuff like this. You can see, you know, everywhere you go, there's people working the fields, not machines, not one man on a tractor doing huge amounts of acreage. there's hundreds of people in a small field all doing it manually still, and they can just about make a living off it. But one of the other things is that there's no sort of pension schemes and that. So these farm workers who don't pay any tax because they never earn any money, it's all done like barter and things, or very little money. When they get old, how are they supposed to survive? What they do is they have big families, and their children, when they grow up, then look after the grandparents or the great grandparents if they ever live that long, because the average life expectancy in India, in rural India, is not very long, of course. But if you've got, because there's not enough work and there's not enough food to come off the land, what they do is, like, the oldest son perhaps will go off to a city, to the big city, or to another city, or somewhere, even another country, to do contract work, perhaps on a building site or whatever. And he will send money home to the family in rural West Bengal to help them survive. Now, if you've got a family where there's no sons, a daughter has to go. Well, you don't get many jobs on building sites in Dubai for women from India. So when the women go off they're offered jobs by these tricksters, by the traffickers. It's to go and be a housemaid for somebody, and she'll be looked after. She'll be live in the house with them. She'll be fed and clothed and looked after medically, and she'll earn money, and she'll be able to send money home to you. And it's like, fantastic. This is an answer to prayers. It's all lies.
Yeah.
When the girl gets to Sonagachi or whichever red light district, they're dragged into a brothel, stripped and beaten, locked up in a room, and then raped multiple times until they eventually give in to their fate. And it's very difficult not to have tears leaving my eyes right now.
Yeah.
I'm
absolutely there with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously lots of research has gone into it, and we've had a comment from Laura actually saying, well-researched and knowledgeable fiction is a good gateway into learning about a subject you haven't come across before.
Yes.
So absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things I feel I want to do with my books is to help educate people about things like this that they might not be aware of. Yeah, so it's something in the back of my mind all the time, that I want to play that role as well as entertaining with a story, to try and this little facts and things slipped in throughout it as well.
We should point out as well, is it the duty that the money you explain?
Yes, yeah, because the duty is primarily about West Bengal, the trafficking there. Then what I've decided is that all the profits from sale of that book, whether it's ebook or the paperback, will go to the organisations in West Bengal which are helping to fight human trafficking, or helping women to get out of it. So one of them, yet again, is quick flash, Free Set, but they're now called Joya, by the way. Sorry, just to complicate things. But if you Google Free Set, it would still come up anyway, and you can see what they do. But there's another couple of organisations as well. One is called Justice Ventures International, and the other one is International Justice Mission. And both of those they're not working with trying to get women out of the trade. They're actually working on behalf of the women. They're working with the police, helping to extract minors that they've heard of that have been just taken into the brothels, and they try to extract them with the police as quickly as possible before it's too late, effectively. Yeah. So they've got people working underground, as it were, providing intelligence and working alongside the police, and then helping to rescue them and get them out and get them into a safe place and get them retrained and get them repatriated to where they come from. And so quite a lot of those who I know of have managed to get back to Nepal, for instance. So those three charities in particular are ones that the profits from that book will go to help fund their work, because they're doing a tremendous job,
And it's a wonderful thing for you to do, to offer further support. Sounds like you've already put quite a deal of time and emotion into it. So
yeah.
Literally putting your money where your mouth is.
Pardon?
You are literally putting your money where your mouth is. So
yes, yeah. And when I was editing The Duty, there are a number of places within it where, even though it was fiction, because I knew it was based on reality, I was literally in tears reading my own work. It was like, what am I doing? This is fiction. I'm reading my own story. But it was because, it was really emotional. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, it's a very powerful story
Mm.
for a reason.
Yeah.
We should talk about the actual book. We should talk about the characters. Do you have a
Yep.
favourite character?
Well, my favourite has got to be Susanna McLeod, of course, the star of the show. Yeah, there's a bit of me in her, but also not. Of course, obviously she's a woman for a start. But one of the things that I'm not so keen on is, and plenty of other people obviously are, is that a lot of detectives in UK crime novels are pretty hopeless people, really. They've got huge underlying problems, big histories. They're a complete mess. They're hopeless at managing anybody else, and they've got a real bad attitude. But they still manage to get the job done. And I got fed up of reading about these characters because I do know some ex-policemen. I'm in a Rotary Club in my local area, and I know an ex-DCI and an ex-superintendent. And they're not like that. They're normal people. So I didn't want to go down the same route. So I've sort of gone down more of a heroine route where she's really got her head screwed on. She's highly intelligent, and well, because everybody's got problems in their lives, nobody's perfect, but she's not a complete mess.
I do have one of the very, very minor characters. I just roared laughing because I could picture her so vividly, and it's Zahir's mum.
Oh.
So
Zahir's mum. Yeah. Yes.
So she's very much. It really made me laugh because you wrote something about her. She was saying to him, "You can't." He's a policeman, and obviously his work's private.
Yeah.
And she's saying you can't have secrets from your mum, and
Yes.
it made me laugh so much.
Yeah.
I could just see him squirm, under her gaze, and I just thought, I like her. I hope there's more of her.
Yeah, and she's a very minor character, as you say.
She really stood out. It was just
she'll no
really
doubt
funny.
be in again, but but it was a very minor part. But that's interesting that you picked her out.
It just really made me laugh. It's such a mum thing to say.
Yes.
You don't have secrets from your mum.
No.
Maybe you wouldn't say that to your child if they had, if they were in the police or in, some other profession where they, things are secret for a reason. It really just made me laugh.
Yeah, good.
So I'm actually at the part now where I'm in Bangladesh with Suzanne.
All right.
So yeah, you're right. It's very descriptive. You can really see the places, and you can see the corruption just the way it is just part of everything.
Yeah.
And how the system of the rank systems, and how people treat people that they consider lower than as well. So the rank systems was the police rank.
Yeah, very much so.
Quite
Particularly
different.
So culture, it's that way. Whereas in the UK, it's not so bad. Not like that.
Yeah, but obviously you were there, so
yes,
was search difficult for all of that?
Well, I mean, yeah. So I've been to Dhaka in Bangladesh. I stayed there for it was a couple of weeks. I was learning the Bangla language, and because Bangladeshis and
that's what you've given Suzanne to do.
Same language. Sorry.
You did the same thing with Suzanne, so I didn't realise that was from you actually doing that.
Yes, that's right. Indeed. So, as I say, there's bits and pieces of me come out in her because it's my experience and it's also her experience, some of it. Yeah. But one of the things you mentioned there about descriptions and being able to see yourself there, and again, that's one of the things I wanted to bring into my books. It's almost a little bit of travel writing in a way, because some books you see and they've just finished on one scene. The next thing you know, whoosh, they're the other side of the world in a completely different location, and you don't even know what it looks like. So I wanted people to travel with her, and indeed other characters. And you'll see in the last book, Myri heads off up into northwest Scotland on a train, and there's a little bit of travel there again. So I'm trying to, describe those places to get people to, just feel that they're there and to see what it's like. The fact that like people are waiting for buses, and they all end up moving out onto the road, trying to see past the other person to see the bus coming, and they end up taking up half the road, and all these sort of things that goes on out in there. In these countries, other countries of the world, it's really quite fun, and it's interesting, and it's great to be there. And I wanted to try and take other people there with me, in the story.
Where's the key set? The key to murder? Where's
the key is it's Edinburgh based, as the others are, and it doesn't go outside of the UK. It's all within Scotland and a little bit of England. Yeah.
So, is it the same team? You've developed quite a nice a relationship between the police team.
Yeah. So it is the same team. Some people are sort of majoring in some books and minor in others. So you'll have come across Angus, who's the DI that works closely with her, and then there's also Caitlin, who's the sergeant, and Rab, another sergeant, and Una, who's the other DI. And in the duty, it was, as you know,
I don't know the outcome of this yet. So
okay, no, but you do know at the beginning that she was stabbed. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
she's
at
this point she's still critical.
Yes.
In hospital. So I'm obviously not going to ask you what happens from there.
She's not in the next book. As in she's, I'm not going to tell you, I don't want to spoil it what exactly happens, but she's not in the next book. and also Angus isn't in the next book. He's not an active part of the investigation. Yeah. So there's more of a Rab and Myri come into it a bit more in this one. But also at the same time, she's still got the chief superintendent, who's a blooming nuisance, nitpicking and things all the time and telling her off.
We just had hello from Aggie. Aggie says, I'm like, hi, Aggie. And you had a welcome back after you disappeared. That was from Helen.
All right.
Okay. Kaz has asked, what's the most interesting research rabbit hole you've been down? We always get different answers to this question.
Ooh, yeah, it's interesting because, a lot of my research has been done previously. So, I've lived in these places, I've traveled to those places, I've done those things. And judo comes into it. I was a black belt judo. So that's why when you hear about Susanna using judo, I'm describing techniques that I know and have done. And other experiences that you'll come across in the book.
I did like with the first fight scene of Susanna's that I read. She's not superhuman. She's just a skilled woman.
Yes.
That it's just there's nothing unreasonable about her behaviour or about any of the. It really is realistic, which
Correct.
I liked. I liked the fact that she's tough and she's fierce. But she's it's not over the top. It's a good balance, I thought.
Good. That's how I intended it. Yeah. In terms of research, some of my research, of course, is done on Google, and what an amazing tool, Street View on Google, for instance, and you can literally travel down that particular street and look at that building without going there. Although, as I say, I love going to Edinburgh particularly, but even so. I haven't been down every single street in Edinburgh, but you can do that on the computer, which is incredible. We couldn't have done this, a few years ago, really 10 years ago. You would have had to go, wouldn't you? So it's an incredible tool. I can't think of anything offhand other than that about down rabbit holes, as it were, on research. Really.
I did make a note, and I was careful to make a note because I knew I wouldn't remember the wording otherwise.
Okay.
So we just mentioned one of the cultural differences, which was how people of different ranks or the caste that isn't supposed to happen still is quite prevalent in some places.
The
caste system.
Yeah, or the caste system.
Caste system. See, I told you before we went live that I would pronounce something wrong.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I mean, I have
so
difficulty as well. If it's spelt strangely, if it's phonetic, it's easy. If it's not phonetic, you have to remember out what it is, don't you?
Every single time I say it a different way. But the other things that I'd written down, this was part of it. So the cultural differences interested me. For example, relationships are given preference rather than keeping appointment time. So if somebody is more important to you, you will ignore the people that you've called honoured guests who are sat waiting because you go with the relationship. And I found that quite surprising.
Absolutely. It's interesting because, say, I used to live in a city called Berhampur in Murshidabad district, and that's where I was based for 5.5 years. And there was a computer shop there which used to help us out, sell us our computers, fix our computers and everything. And I went to see the director on the sales side of it about buying stuff. And, he wasn't there, and he turned up, about a quarter of an hour late for this meeting about buying equipment off him for the company. And we had a discussion about that. He says, it's interesting, you Westerners. You put keeping time, is more important to you than relationships and other people. So if I'm walking down the street and I come across somebody I haven't seen for a while and they want to chat, I'll talk to them. And if I'm late, I'm late. Whereas you'll just ignore them, walk, say, "Oh, hi," gone. No relationship, and relationships are really, really important. And it's an interesting one because I have learned from that. Whilst I'm sort of driven, especially from my military background, to be, if I'm at a meeting, I've got to be there, not just on time, but a little bit early, ready for the start of that meeting. If you turn up late, it's like, what are you doing coming in here late? It's just not done. But relationships are key, aren't they? It's like, and it's a bit like also owning things. You can be super rich but unhappy, or you can be poor but happy. And what's the difference? It's about relationships. Big thing.
It is very interesting because we do put so much emphasis on being on time for things because otherwise it's rude. But it's such a different way of looking at it.
It's, yeah.
I can't imagine that I'm ever going to start being late.
Well, just imagine if we'd started this talk 10 minutes late. We'd have people on Facebook waiting for it, going, "What's going on?" So
wondering if I've not more books on my head. That's what they'd be wondering.
Being on time, of course, it's good for efficiency and effectiveness, and us Brits and a lot of the people in the Western world are actually good at being efficient and effective. But as I say, there's something to be said for this putting relationships first.
I absolutely do agree with putting relationships first. It's just a very difficult one to manage when we do try to be so punctual. And again, like you, I'll try to be at least 10 minutes early.
Yeah.
The anxiety of getting somewhere late.
Another example of this is not just being, on time for meetings. It's leaving work and going home to be with your family in the evening. Far too many people in the West, I believe, work late. It's like, I've really got to do this. I've got to make an impression with the boss, or this is really important. I've got to get this job done. And then they get home, the children are already in bed. And then at the weekend, they drive them to rugby, or they drive them to this, and they never actually spend any time with them. Whereas in India and other countries in the world, not just India, many of them, family is far more important, and spending time with your family is far more important than work. And if you earn less money, so be it. That's the way they look at it. And there's something to be said for that.
Yep, absolutely. That's a decision I made. So poor but happy.
Great.
I will take joy over money any day of the week.
Absolutely.
I hadn't heard the term, because you're mentioning the RAF, the Air Force. I hadn't heard the term scaly brats before.
Oh, yeah.
So my eldest children were pad brats.
Pad
because
brats?
of the army.
Ah.
Not me, husband.
Okay.
Which is quite well known. But scaly brat, where does that come from? I thought that was interesting. And
I thought that term was explained in the book. Actually, this is one of my things about trying to
Have I not hit that part yet?
No, I don't know. I thought that would have been there where you read it. Scaly brat. It goes back to, and this was where I did have to do a little bit of research because I just accepted it from my time in the RAF that the children who lived in the married quarters were called scaly brats. But they're brats of the scalies, and apparently scaly comes from people in married quarters used to be equipped with, it was like a fully furnished house with all your knives, forks and plates and everything, because you're moving around and you couldn't always take that with you, to scale E on the supply system. That if you were this particular, if you lived in a 3-bed semi and you were a certain rank and you got so many children, you would be, which is the majority of people would be scale E. That's the scale of equipment they provided with. So
you saying it makes so much sense. It should have been
how
obvious.
our language goes, isn't it? So
No,
they're scaly brats.
I don't know what scale I was, because we would have had scales as well. This is a long time ago. This is a very long time ago. Same husband, completely different life now.
Right. Yeah.
So, do you ever miss it?
I do. I mean, I don't miss it in the sense of I don't belong to any ex-servicemen clubs and go and reminisce about the good old days. But when I look back, I miss the camaraderie that I used to have, and the fun and the banter. So as in the second part of my career, I was a commissioned officer. Whereas the first part, I was in the ranks and a technician. And on a Friday night, it would be happy hour down the officers' mess, having a few pints, having a good laugh with all the other guys and girls that were there, joking and things. But yeah, but everybody was in the same team. And it was, there was very, very rarely was there confrontation between people trying to win over others. They were all pulling together all the time. We were all, even though you're on a station with maybe 2,000 people, just about everybody was serving other people and working as that single team in a way for the same purpose, to get aircraft airborne to do their job, and come back safely. Very important part.
It's funny, isn't it? Another thing we were discussing the other day is that we both have difficulty remembering what day we're on.
Yeah.
So I was a teaching assistant and worked in education for 15 years. And now I have no idea what day it is. It's all very neatly organised. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a clue. If you'd just asked me today, I would have told you it was Sunday and it's Tuesday. I've thought it was Sunday for the last 3 days. But it's half term, so it's completely different. It throws me again.
Without the kids going off to school, you lose track, don't you? Yeah, no, I'm similar because I don't go off to work anymore. One day is the same as another in a way. Sometimes I'll be working, writing, editing, or whatever on a Sunday, and other days I won't be. And it doesn't matter. There's no Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday anymore. It's just days of the week. And
so you don't have set days that you do certain things?
No, I don't. I don't tend to have a routine. It's fitting it all in around all the other things I do as well in the community, and indeed family, helping with, yeah. I think the only thing where I'm really disciplined about is the writing, because the way I've found, not with the glass, because that took ages to write the glass, even the first draft, but after that, the next 2-3 books there, I basically sat down and worked full time every day until I'd written it first draft. So the duty, it was like a month long, sat in my summer house, work, garden shed, whatever, write, 8-9 hours a day till it was done.
Wow.
That's the way I find it works better, because if I'm away for too long, I sort of lose track of where I was, and then I have to waste time going back and going, what did I say about that person? And wasting time researching my own writings. But if it's all fresh, it just keeps going and going and going. And then I get to the end, it's like, then comes the hard work later on, the editing.
So no planning beforehand? Do you know where the story's going to go before you start?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, again, good question. The glass, I didn't know where it was going at all. So when it was finished, the job of editing it and actually putting it all together and getting it all in the right order and everything was a massive challenge. Massive. That's partly because I'd never done it before either, but also because I haven't planned it. With the duty, that was much more planned. Literally, I had an outline of all the chapters in the book, approximately what was going to happen when, and then I wrote by that plan. Obviously, you don't know exactly what's going to go in that chapter, and while you're writing it, something just comes to mind. You're shooting off sideways down a rabbit hole. We were talking about rabbit holes earlier, and of course, in my book, The Key, you'll find there's a huge rabbit hole where you go off. The investigation goes off sideways into other stuff and comes back into the murder again afterwards. Yeah, so that's how it works for me.
So, is it? Do you have a team? Do you have editors and proofreaders and things, or is it all on you?
It's all on me, really. I have beta readers. I have some alpha readers, I suppose, friends and family. Some that I found are prepared to be frank about the story and go, "Do you know what, Ron? Harry, you should really cut that out. It's not good. It doesn't fit with the story, or this needs changing." And of course, the stuff, like commas are in the wrong place and you've used the wrong word. The sort of stuff that all people make those mistakes. So I get that, but then I've also got pro writing aid, which is very powerful to and a bit of Grammarly sometimes, which is pointing out all the sort of basic grammatical stuff and style even, which is very, very helpful. But also then I put it out to beta readers as well and get feedback from those. So they're now a bit further downstream. And I've just recently been getting some feedback from some of my beta readers on The Key. And I'm waiting at the moment just for a few more to come in before I then go into editing that, which takes it onto its next phase, which means more going back through it again. I read it full, excuse me. Sorry. I'll read the whole book out loud to myself and make notes all the way through. I'll also use Word to read it back to me in bits, not the whole thing at once, but in bits and pieces, as well as sending it out to other people. But I don't have any professional editors working for me as much as I'd love to. Sorry, I'm getting a bit croaky.
That's quite all right. We've got a comment from Maggie Johnson. I was very pleased to be able to be a beta reader on The Key.
Oh, great! Thank you, Maggie. That's wonderful. It's like it's invaluable, the feedback I get. Some of it, is quite specific from some people, and others it's about the storyline, and for others it's actually just encouragement, which is good. It's like, yeah, I love the story. Everything's about it is great. What? And nothing much coming back maybe from that one person to tell me to change it because they loved it so much anyway. But it's really encouraging for me because after all, I haven't got a team around me. I haven't got all these professional editors and publishers and agents helping me along. It's all on me. And I found this a real struggle being self-published because not only did I have to learn how to write books, I've now had to learn how to publish them and market them, and I'm still doing that. I'm still learning that now, and it's a huge burden. It'd be lovely to hand it over to a publisher through an agent and sit back and just take the royalties. I wish, but something that the people viewing might be interested to hear, because I've recently been to the Crime Writers Association annual conference. Yeah, excuse me, just 1 second. Thank you. There's some noise going in the background. And what I was shocked to hear, this is from the Society of Authors. They're like the union for all authors.
Yeah.
I was absolutely shocked. I was surrounded by published authors in this conference. The average annual salary of a published author, not self-published, published author, £10,000 a year. Average. That includes averaging, bringing in J.K. Rowling and all the others that are earning millions. So a typical author, published author in the UK, is earning less than £10,000 a year. That's incredible, isn't it? And what they then went on to say was there's only 5% of authors in the UK earning 30,000 or more. And
there's been some really interesting Twitter threads, actually. People doing a breakdown of their 5 figures and, you know, how it comes in installments and different things.
Yeah.
So they might earn, I think it was £60,000 in advances, but that will come in 4 installments.
Okay.
So it's, you know, the other people commenting on different things. It's a tricky one because authors just want the work out there. You know, whether they do it as a job, you know, to actually cover the bills, and more than cover the bills.
Yeah.
I'd imagine for most people that is the hope, even if you write because you love writing.
Quite. So it's not an easy industry to be in, I found, unless you're one of the very lucky 1% who's, you know, the best-selling authors and getting in huge sums of money, you know, 5, 6, 7 figures. But for the majority of authors, they're just struggling, doing what they love to do, but not earning very much of it at all for it at all. Amazing.
Yeah, it's that tricky balance, isn't it? A day job around writing for many, many people.
Yeah.
I met one of the 1%ers a few days ago, Stuart Turton, who wrote The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle and The Devil in the Dark Water.
No, I haven't read them.
And some very interesting conversations going on in publishing right now. So let's hope that things do improve in the author's favour.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So other than sorry, go on.
It does seem rather unfair that the people that put this massive effort into writing and books get so little money for it. And all the money, of course, goes to the agents and the publishing houses and the retailers. You know, and the people that are the source of that creative are getting very little for it in most cases. You know, that just seems so unfair.
So, do you read crime while you're writing crime?
I do, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm reading M.W. Craven at the moment.
Which one?
Oh gosh, what is it? It's on my iPad and I've forgotten.
When did you buy it? Is it The Botanist? Is it the new
No,
one?
it's
Is it
not
Big Ground?
It's the first one.
The Puppet Show?
Oh no, it's not the first one, obviously. I can't remember. Sorry.
What have I missed?
Oh no, it begins with B as well.
No, not
it's
The
not
Botanist.
The Botanist.
Curator. Come on, people, tell me which one I'm missing. I must be missing one.
I have my iPad near me. I'll be able to tell you because it's on my iPad. I haven't got the book.
They're all great anyway. Whichever one you're reading, they're all fabulous.
But he's a Cumbrian author, of course, and that's where I live is Cumbria, and he's also a Cumbrian author. Yeah, so I might get
interviewing on Thursday. So,
pardon?
Interviewing him on Thursday, so I'll tell him that you enjoyed the book.
Oh wow! Okay, it's great. Yeah, because The Botanist is due out, and he's on tour, isn't he, at the moment? With going to
He'll be a very tired man this week.
Yeah, I think he's in Carlisle tomorrow or Thursday or something like that.
I think he was doing something tonight as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
With Paul Finch, I believe, tonight.
Oh,
so yeah, he's here, there, and everywhere. He's been signing books and doing all sorts.
Yeah.
I think he'll be glad of a sit down at some point.
I should think so, yes.
Laura Hamilton said, need to close the loop on Amazon where people read the book, then return it for refund, and also improve the library lending income route. So it's just based on a sample. So the read and refund has been a huge issue.
Yeah, there's been a lot about that lately, hasn't there? How can you borrow a book and then buy it and then return it a week later, having read it, and get your money back? It's just
if I didn't enjoy the book, I still wouldn't return it. I'd pass it on to somebody else if I could, or it would stay on my Kindle. So yeah, we're really coming up to the end of the hour. Would you like to give? In fact, I'm going to ask you one of our favourite questions first.
Okay.
Most memorable moments so far as an author?
Well, the most memorable, I suppose, was when I published my first book and actually it turned up in the post, and I went, yes, I've done it. I've got a book, I've written a book, I've published it. That's the most memorable. Yeah.
That must have been really exciting. So did you order just one copy for yourself, or did you order several?
No, I ordered I think about 25, 30, partly to give away to family and friends and my alpha readers, and also what I've started doing of late is my best beta reader gets posted a signed copy of the paperback when it comes out as well.
That's nice.
So the people on my team, like Margaret, who mentioned earlier, if she was the one that provided the best feedback, she would get a signed copy of it. So I do that, and occasionally people buy them as well from me. That's nice.
So can people get in touch to buy signed copies?
Yeah, I mean, you could do it via my website, which is harrynavinski.com, and from there my email address is on it. That's I don't know if you can. How do I sort that? That's my card. That's the back of my card. So you can see harrynavinski.com on there, I think, and.
Okay.
Oh, that's harrynavinski.com, that side. And the other side is my email address is harry@harrynavinski.com. So email me, and if you wanted to buy one. I've had that with some friends that have said, I'd love to buy a signed copy, please. Well, okay, fine. And I'll post you one.
I do love signed
cost
copies.
of postage on top of the book, of course, yeah.
Would you like to give us a recap of your books and where people can buy them from?
So, I mean, they're all available on Amazon. So, obviously, you can order them for your Kindle and order paperbacks from there. And you can also, of course, as you say, email me, and I could send you a signed copy. I think that's they're not available anywhere else at the moment because I haven't even considered going wide because it's too big a business to understand yet at this stage. And I'm not even advertising at the moment. Which was another thing we've just got time to say. I did try advertising with the glass, and I found that whilst I sold a few hundred, I was spending more money on advertising than I was getting in revenue. And I've since learned in the self-publishing training I've been receiving that really you need about 3 books out there before it is viable to advertise, because you then get knock-on effect. If somebody likes your first book, they'll maybe go and buy your second and third book or whatever. And by selling 3 books, you'll more than pay for the cost of advertising, and therefore you start to make some profit. At the moment, I haven't made any profit, but hopefully things will change.
And the aim of the game is to get good books out and make some money out of them.
Yeah, I mean, to me, making money is very, it's all very nice because you can spend it on other things. But to me, there's no point in putting all that effort in it if hardly anybody's going to read it. So I want loads of people to read it because I want them to enjoy it. It's like, why bother? It's like painting a picture and then putting it in a wardrobe and hiding it for the rest of your life. If nobody gets to see it, why bother painting it? This is the way I see it. So I want that out there. I'll get these books out there and read.
Show those covers off again so everybody knows what to go and look for.
So that's the glass, and then the novella, the test, followed by the duty, which is already out there, and then coming is the key. The key.
Do you have a publication date for it yet?
No, because it's very much reliant on voluntary help from my cover designer, who's a family member.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but it should. The intention is for it to be out in June, at some time. That I could let you know, Sam.
Yeah. Brilliant. Please do, and then we can make an announcement for you in the group.
That'd be brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you to all of the members who've come along tonight and asked questions. It's lovely to see so many people. And thank you very much to you. I mean, we've known each other just via Messenger for quite some time now.
Yes.
So it's nice to actually meet you and really talk about the book.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.